Sometimes when I'm thinking about us, before we got lost and we parted, back to back we would carry on and we'd do anything for what we started. But this time we could break. I'm running dry, everything's the same. We'll try tonight, this time we're not safe and sound. Not safe and sound. Back we would carry on and we'd do anything for what we started. But this time we could break. I'm running dry, everything's the same. We'll try tonight, this time we're not safe and sound. Not safe and sound. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me?
What's up, everybody? It's so good to be back with the FPV news and back with you, Blunty. How are you, man?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. With for the news has been on a 2-month hiatus, I think, something like that. You've
Wow.
been going around and doing all kinds of stuff, and I've done a couple things, and
Yeah.
yeah,
People
it's been a minute.
people were like, why did you cancel the news? And I was like, I know that I cancel the news sometimes when I go on trips or when I can't make it. But the truth is that at least one of those cancellations was because you had a family obligation come up and you were like, sorry, dude, I can't do the news. And I'm not going to do it without you. It was loyalty.
Yeah.
So
What are you gonna put together? Show notes? You gotta. Yeah.
it's actually, I did it for a very short time before you came on all by myself, didn't I?
No, we
think-
started the
no.
news.
We started
No.
it together? I remember that I started it by myself
No,
and take
you
all
were
the credit.
doing news on the Q&A without any kind of guideline. You were just bringing up news on the Q&A, and you were like, "Dude, this should be a different show."
It's I have these same conversations with my wife. No, you can make of that what you will. Where I have a bad memory, and in lieu of actual accurate memories and facts, I remember complimentary things about myself. And she's like, "You didn't do that. I did that." I'm like, "Are you sure?" I'm pretty sure I did that. She's like, "No." Okay, so I'm not going to start doing the news without you. Here we are, though, and we have a few stories about from the world of FPV. Starting, by the way, welcome back. Hello. Yahir Kasaya wants to know, how do I contact Blunty to help me organize my drones? I don't know what organize my drones is, but as long as we're here, you do have a service where you'll give people one-on-one help. How do people contact you? Ooh.
Yeah, the most preferable way is ItsBlunty on Discord. You just search my name on Discord, ItsBlunty, and that's my account. And shoot me a message. Also, ItsBlunty, fpv@gmail.com also works, but I'm just going to send you to Discord because I don't want to do stuff over email. So.
Yeah. And people are, as long as we're just getting started, people are also wondering if you've moved to a different room because your background is different. We may as well address that.
We did a little rotato potato action. So.
Rotato potato. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So we're going to start with a public service announcement, and this is the perfect kind of thing for the news to do. Because this is a thing where people are like, why don't you make a video about this? And I'm like, I don't know, because I'm not sure how many facts are out there. And the news is perfect for things where news is supposed to report facts. There's an issue with the DJI Goggles 3 and the O3 Air unit, a critical issue that is making people lose their drones, crash their drones, and you need to know, well, I mean, in short, don't use the DJI Goggles 3 with the O3 Air unit until this issue is fixed. That's the short version.
Yeah, I mean, that's basically all of it. At random times, they will disconnect and they will not reconnect. The biggest issue here is that they will not reconnect. You know, sometimes you can have a blackout on digital and then you'll get it back. Either you went out of range or you had some kind of like really bad signal patch, but then you would get a recovery. And unfortunately, in this case, there's no recovery without resetting the unit. And that's what makes this really a super critical error as opposed to a sort of critical error.
Well, and I've heard people, so like, okay, well, I will just not fly far away and I'll keep my bit rate high and I'll never lose link. And I got GPS rescue if I do lose link, so it'll be okay. But I've heard some reports of people losing link at close range and being confused. So it makes me wonder if there are constant, maybe little micro fail-safes that we're not aware of, that now that the link doesn't recover, we're finding out. It's not like you could safely do this if you're just really careful. Like if you were 100% sure that you had a working GPS rescue and you're not using the DJI RC controller, because with the RC controller, when you lose video, you also lose control. But if you were 100% sure you had working GPS rescue that you really trusted, maybe you could fly, and if you lost video, you would just... But other than that, forget about it. Forget about it. Just don't fly with the RC... with the DJI Goggles 3 and the O3 Air unit.
Yeah, don't do it.
We got to give credit. MadStech certainly isn't the only one to have discovered this, but MadStech has been at the forefront of documenting it, and so we got to give credit to MadStech. There's a link to his video down in the video description below. Oh, hang on. I never turned the face cam on for the news, because if I'm on screen, Blunty should be on screen. So credit to MadStech and the other people who have been researching this. It is worth pointing out, I think, that some people have said that if you cut the TX wire, so you've got the TX and the RX wire going to the air unit, and the TX wire is doing your OSD, the RX wire, I can't remember which one you're supposed to cut. They said if you cut one of those wires, then the problem doesn't happen. And they believe that it is somehow related to Betaflight flight controller telling the O3 that it's armed in some way that relates to the bug. And it's been documented that if you disconnect the TX and one of the TX and the RX wires, I'm not sure which one, then disconnect them both. Then the problem doesn't happen. But don't do that. That is not a solution, because the O3 Air unit will not go out of low power mode when it doesn't have that TX-RX connection. And people also say, well, there's a menu option where you can turn off low power mode. And so you just turn low power mode off, and then you don't need the TX and the RX wires. And that's also incorrect. On the Vista, turning off low power mode would cause the Vista to go to full performance. On the O3, turning off low power mode, it still doesn't do everything, because when the Vista is in low power mode, it's not just the output power, it's also the frame rate and other things, the bit rate. So the O3 will not go to full power without that TX and RX lines, and that is what sort of triggers the bug. There just isn't a workaround right now, period. Is the takeaway. So, don't do it. And the next question, Blunty, is when will a fix come out? Is DJI going to fix this? What's your opinion about that?
Who knows?
Yeah, pretty much.
That's my opinion. Who knows?
Yeah.
There's literally no way to know. So they could say they're doing it, and they could not be. They could not say they're doing it, and they are. You know what I mean? Any combination of the matrix is correct.
Yeah,
it could be any number of things.
DJI has said they're looking into it. They always say that, though. I have heard from people that DJI engineers have contacted them and asked them for logs, which lends a little more credibility that DJI is sort of being proactive, and it's not just some customer service drone being like, yes, your call is very important to us. We will log it and pass it to the engineers. And I think it's such a critical bug that it feels like, I mean, if I were a gambling man, I would bet that DJI is going to fix it. As far as when, though, like, who knows? They have to figure out what's causing it and how to fix it. And we don't know when that'll happen. And especially because the O3 is last generation, it may not be as high a priority as it would if it was a brand new product. So, yeah, okay. So I think that's everything there is to say about that. And I think I'm really excited that this is going to go up as a clip on the Livestream Clips channel, because then there will be a video out there, do not use DJI O3 and RC together and help amplify this message. Yeah. Great. Enough said about that.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, Diamond Pictures said, I flew 100 packs with the O3 and the Goggles 3 and everything was fine. Good for you. That doesn't mean it's safe to do. At any moment, you could lose video, not get it back, and lose your drone. So take that risk if you want to take it. But don't assume. Okay, Blunty. Continue.
All right. Next up, our first story. We typically don't talk about new products, but when there's a new product, especially with the hype that's been around this product, and it's sort of a new entry into the digital field, it's like a special product, it seems like. Right. So we're going to let you know.
We say that product releases by themselves are not newsworthy, but sometimes a product is so notable that it becomes newsworthy, and that's what's going on here. Go ahead.
Yeah, so both RunCam and Emacs have released hardware for OpenIPC. OpenIPC, we've discussed a little bit in the past. We are kind of waiting on some releases like this to come out. We're sort of there with this, and we'll kind of explain that. But basically, OpenIPC is an open version of a digital thing, sort of like we've seen in the past with OpenHD, but OpenHD never sold like hardware. They just talked about selling hardware. But OpenIPC is now selling hardware. There was a board sold by Mario that I believe shipped some units, and now RunCam has built the RunCam Wi-Fi link, and Emacs has two different OpenIPC VTXs. These are just the VTXs. There are no available VRXs currently.
I'm arguing with people in the chat about the last one. Yeah, so we've got the RunCam Wi-Fi link and the Emacs OpenIPC. It's pretty exciting to see some of the promise of OpenIPC being realized. Like if you look at the price of these things, the $70 for a digital video transmitter and camera, that's a really impressive. $40 for this receiver, $70 for this video transmitter. Really impressive. Low price is one of the promises of open source. And it's really nice that we've got these products that people can actually just buy if they don't want to go through all the hassle of making their own, which there have been, as you said, a couple of small runs of hardware, but for the most part, anybody who wanted to try OpenIPC had to make their own hardware, and it's a little difficult. Cyber Overkill, those are browns. I switched away from blues because blues are too loud for live streams. Those are browns.
The browns are too loud too, but that's okay.
Well, they're not blues. So I'm going back to blues, and y'all can fuck off.
I mean, they're both the same.
They're not the same, I assure you.
Well, that sounds just like you've typed every other time, but that's okay.
No, I've always had browns. A long, long time ago, I had blues. Then they were worse. Yeah, they were worse. Those are browns. This is me trying to be considerate, but point made. Okay, so both of these.
Unfortunately, I was just going to say, unfortunately, like I said, the major issue here is there's no VRX available. So if you want to fly this as a FPV system, there's not an easy way to do that without purchasing some off-the-shelf hardware, I believe, is available on places like AliExpress, and then flashing that with OpenIPC VRX firmware and using that. I believe it's sort of large at this point to get that VRX, so I don't know if it necessarily fits on the goggles. There's a few different options people have. You can also do it with the phone. You can also connect over the phone, but there's some latency there, and obviously that is in a phone, so there's sort of a different application than FPV. But at least this is good because we're seeing two manufacturers support the OpenIPC ecosystem and say like, hey, we're gonna invest money into making these products and put these chips on products, and selling them flashed. So I think that's positive for the movement. And regardless of who this really ends up working for, I know there's issues with latency currently. I still think this is great to have a open source digital system that is sold as a flashed product by vendors.
Right. Now, I actually have both of these. I've tested both of them, and I have the Emacs video is in editing. The RunCam video is edited. They'll probably come out this week, I would guess. And so I can give you a little bit of a summary of my thoughts. I'll start by saying that I flew them using a phone. And there's the receiver plugs into the phone, and there's an app that runs on the phone. As you said, the latency is not great. I believe MadsTech measured the latency at something around 45, 50 milliseconds. A slow old phone will have worse latency, so the performance of the phone heavily affects the latency of the link, the glass-to-glass latency. I think best case, it can get down to something like 35 milliseconds, but I don't know if that's on mobile phone hardware or more dedicated hardware. As far as goggles, you can just hold the phone up. You can do one of those Google things where you basically turn your phone into a box goggle. Or what I did is I got an HDMI adapter for my phone and mirrored the phone screen to my HC0 goggles, which added more latency, but it did let me actually see the damn thing in the goggles on my face instead of having to look at a phone, which drives me crazy. Yeah. As far as the video transmitters go, the RunCam one... The RunCam one feels like So I believe that Emacs has been working on this hardware for a long time. And the RunCam one kind of feels like RunCam rushed to beat Emacs to market. I can't say that as a fact. It's really janky, and it does work. But like one of the things I want to point out is that on the RunCam one, do you see that there's only 2 standoffs here?
Yeah.
You're not going to fly that. There's no way I would put that, like in a test bird that I was very careful not to crash. Okay. You're not going to fly that. Give me a break. You have to have, because the boards will slap together and shit. In addition, the SD card, just by way of example, the SD card, here's the SD card right here. You see with my mouse? Do you see that when the board is put together, you cannot access the SD card? It's like right here in between the two, and you can't put the SD card in and out. Not very easily. I broke my SD thing because I was like, how do you get the SD card in here? And anyway, so like it's not really super well thought out. It's clearly just a test product, very alpha, pre-alpha. And you should take that into account. On the other hand, the Emacs one, well, it's still pretty alpha. Like, I'm not going to oversell it. But the Emacs one feels a little more polished. It's like slightly more polished. And in terms of, just the quality of the hardware, the thought that's put into the build and so forth, it seems a little more polished. I have no idea which one performs better. Actually, I kind of do. The Emacs one you can get either a 2-watt or I think like a 500 milliwatt, 400 milliwatt VRX, depending on, and because it's a bidirectional system, the higher powered VRX gives you more range, or VRX gives you more range. So I believe that this 2-watt one is going to outdo whatever RunCam ships, which is not 2 watts. But either way, it's a pretty cool way that if you're intrigued by OpenIPC and you kind of want to see how it works and what it has to offer, you could get in there. It's not, I'll say one more thing, it is nowhere close to an actual product that you would use as your daily driver. It is miles from that, both in terms of the hardware quality, the hardware polish and refinement, hardware availability. Both of these are pre-orders and they're in limited numbers. And in terms of the actual performance of the link, in some ways the performance of the link surprised me, but it's only a 4 megabit per second link. So like it got as far as Walksnail and the Vista. In my completely bullshit informal range testing, it got as far as them, but it was only at 4 megabits per second, and the actual resolution, I mean, the resolution is 720p, but the actual usable, visible resolution in the image was much worse, and there were these kind of weird glitches and dropouts that were kind of, So there's a long way to go, but this is another step in the direction, and it's very exciting. That's what I'll say.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. Enough said about that?
Yeah.
Okay. Next up,
we've got a little spotlight here on a documentary we wanted to show you. sort of a short documentary, a little longer than 10 minutes, and it's from MultiGP and Lehanvander, who put it together. And this is a little behind the experience of International Open.
Well, I'm sure they won't mind us playing a little bit of it. I've got the sound off just in case any music would make us get a copyright issue. But you guys, of course, there's a link in the video description. I'm loving the B-roll. Like all the happy people flying their drones, setting up tracks, racing around, doing their thing. Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Kind of explains what goes on, what goes through the head of a pilot that's there, and how the day goes. So pretty cool.
Yeah. Nice. Well, if you want to find out more about if you've never been to International Open, or sometimes like I would just sit and watch this for 10 minutes just because it's just fun to kind of immerse yourself in FPV culture, even if you weren't at the event, or, you know, just to like reminisce and think about how awesome it is events like this and people like this are. Hey, I know that guy. I love these little slow camera moves. Very nice. It's hard to do tastefully. There's a link. There's a link in the video description. You guys can check that out. Is that it? We just wanted to let people know this exists, and they should go watch it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Next up, then. Oh man, this is a big one.
Hold on, we got an audible. I called an audible on 3-1 in the middle here. We got an event we wanted to announce just because the registration is about to end.
Oh, great.
RaceGOW, we've been away for 2 months, but RaceGOW has started in the time that we've left. This is the first week of RaceGOW. And so if you are interested in RaceGOW, you should get in and use the link in the chat here that we pasted. I've got it in the Discord, racegow.com, and sign up because the due date for the first track is going to be September 29th. So you can still slip in if you need to and get into this. And RaceGOW is basically a thing where you set up these little, basically like the universal time trials used to be, where you kind of set up a little course that's predetermined with some pieces, and then you fly it on camera and you try to compete with other people in the world.
Yeah, so you still have 5 days to do it. And even if you don't get in on the first track, like you'll take a letter or whatever on that first track, but you can still continue to compete. You'll just be at a little bit of a disadvantage compared to everybody who got a time in on that first track. It's fairly common for pilots to miss a week here or there, and that's not going to necessarily... And plus, let's be honest, you're probably not going to win anyway, so what do you care? Like, even if I missed the first week, even if I didn't officially submit the times, I mean, it's fun to look at the leaderboard and see where your time is. But even if you're like, nah, I don't want to do that, that's too much of a hassle, it's just fun to set up these tracks and fly them. I actually, if you search for Joshua Bardwell RaceGOW, I competed in RaceGOW last, I am not a professional drone racer, OpenAI. Sorry about that. I decline. But I did some RaceGOW content, and if you want to kind of get a sense of what that's like, I would suggest the first one, JB Does RaceGOW 2024, and you could get a sense of it. What is RaceGOW, and you can get started. It's super fun. It makes you a better pilot, and there's a question in the Discord server. Do you need a lap timer to participate? You do not. You submit your times, and they time them based on the DVR. So basically, they look at the timestamp when you cross the track, cross the gate, and then the next time you cross the lap. I will say that if you're going to do it, it's very nice to have a lap timer. Because, like, if you're racing, how do you know if your laps are getting faster? How do you know if you just put in a really fast lap and you're ahead of your own skit time? You don't. What you would have to do is just run a pack and then go look at the DVR and see how you did. And that's going to break your flow. So a lap timer will be very nice to have. Highly recommended, but not required. Okay. I'm actually a sponsor of RaceGOW. So it seems like I should be promoting it, right? So
yeah.
No, they should be promoting me. That's what sponsorship means. I pay them and they promote me. I don't promote you. You promote me. No, that's not how it is. Anyway, thanks to FPV Skittles who sets that up and puts in a shitload of work, and it's really awesome. So keep it up. Okay. Now then, we got a big one. The FCC is doing something, well, potentially doing something shitty. The FCC is potentially threatening ExpressLRS, Crossfire, and more. Tell us about it.
Essentially, so the FCC has put forth an NPRM. We might be familiar with an NPRM because we had one for remote ID before we got remote ID. An NPRM is a notice for proposed rulemaking where a government organization just puts up a document and says, here's what we plan on doing. You give us comments. We're going to legally have to take comments for a while, read them, go through them, and revamp this based on that information.
Yes.
The FCC has put forth an NPRM from a company called NextNav. NextNav has petitioned and gotten them to build this plan, basically this document out, so that NextNav would take a part of the 900 megahertz band as priority, which is 902 to 928, which you might know that's what we use in the 900 megahertz spectrum.
Crossfire.
Also, all LoRa devices, home automation devices that use LoRa on 900, and 33 centimeter ham radio are also going to be affected because they all fit into this bracket. And basically, this petition is from NextNav, and it says that, hey, we want you to give us priority over these bands. And then, essentially, my understanding of how this would work, I've seen mixed information from different places about what the real world results would be. A lot of the places are just like, hey, we don't want this. Obviously, we want to save the band. But the prioritization thing, like no hardware currently has been sold with prioritization in mind, right? So it's not like our receivers would just give it up to somebody on the band, right? They would just hop like they do to the 80 different, spots on the 80 different bands, and as long as there's room, they'll use them, right?
Right, but it's gonna not completely take over the whole because we use something like 902 to 935, I think. So they're taking most of it. And our ExpressLRS and Crossfire devices would kind of hop over to the section they're not using, but that would have an effect on our performance. At the very least, it would mean that fewer ExpressLRS devices could be in the air at the same time without interference.
But I think the big concern here would be that this would then trigger some kind of rulemaking to say new devices on the spectrum need to have some kind of software or handling so that they give up the band to NextNav devices.
Right.
And I think that's where the concern really comes in. I think previously sold devices, I don't know that there's, NextNav is already broadcasting on these bands in certain areas, and it's not necessarily causing that much interference, but if they get prioritization, that's sort of what this does. This gives them the right of prioritization over the band, which we definitely do not want.
Right. Yaros asks, does this apply to 900 megahertz only or also 2.4 gigahertz? It applies only to 900 megahertz. So, I mean, we still should care, right? But if you fly only 2.4, then this will not directly affect you. So the ARRL is probably the best entity to fight this. They have a little bit of clout, and they are fighting it. But basically, we need to submit comments. And if
the
you
comment period is already over.
We missed the window to submit comments.
Well, FPVFC submitted comments, and some other people we told submitted comments. So we've been gone for 2 months, so we weren't able to ask people for comments on this through the news.
So this link is useless.
Correct.
Okay. Disregard. So, what do you think? What do you think our chances are?
Probably pretty good. There's a lot of, there's millions of devices. Google cares about this. Amazon cares about this. You know what I mean? Like they all have Echoes and Google Homes, I believe, can communicate on 900. There are a bunch of home automation LoRa devices. Meshtastic cares about this. The ham cares about this. I suspect that there's going to be a reasonable number of people who care about.
Sorry,
you type. Okay. I can't talk while you type. It's hard for me to talk.
Shit. If only there was a button where I could mute my mic. Go ahead.
I think enough people care about this, and this has failed in the past, that this will be fine moving forward, and this will not happen. But the FCC is putting this forward because this has a chance of going through. So while there are a bunch of comments against this, and I believe it's probably not going to make it, the FCC doesn't put forth things that they don't want. Right. So the FCC could have denied, my understanding is the FCC could have denied NextNav and said, no, we're not interested in pitching this. This band has already been reserved based on XYZ. We're good. Right. But they decided to put forth this NPRM and get comment on it. So.
Yeah. Okay. There you go. Well, fingers crossed. Fingers crossed, I guess. All right. That brings us to a segment we like to call It's Barely News. Little stories that we thought you would enjoy hearing about, but that we don't have a lot of actual substance to add. That's what It's Barely News is. And here's the first one. Answering the age-old question.
Yes. Will a drone be pulled backwards inside of an accelerating truck?
I think I know the answer. I haven't seen this video, but I think I know the answer because I think I know people who've done this experiment. And I think the answer... Do you want me to spoil it with my guess? Should we make people watch the video? I think that what happens...
It's sort of up to you, yeah.
I've seen an experiment where they did a balloon in a car. And what happens is that when the car moves forward, the air in the cabin is pulled to the back by acceleration. And because the balloon is so light, it doesn't have any mass, so it's not pulled to the back. The air moving to the back of the car actually pushes the balloon forward. So as the car accelerates, the balloon moves forward. So the question will be, and that's a fact, the question will be, does the drone move with the air that moves to the back of the truck as the truck accelerates? Or does the air move around the drone and kind of push it forward? Ooh, I don't actually know what my guess would be.
So, well, first of all, I'll say that as far as I know, you were incorrect about the balloon.
What? Shut up.
Because that is only a balloon that is tied down. But if the balloon is not tied down, it moves with the air and then thus does not move horizontally.
All I heard you say was that I'm actually right about the balloon in at least one instance.
When it's tied down.
When it's tied... Yeah, it was tied down in the experiment, of course. Someone was joyfully holding the balloon. No, it's a floating balloon. Yeah, no, obviously a floating balloon would move back. Of course I knew that.
Yeah, it doesn't move at all. I believe that it doesn't move because it's neutrally buoyant. But because the drone is pushing air down, then that matters for how the drone moves.
Well, this is a 9-minute video, and I feel like I would be irresponsible as a YouTuber if I spoiled it and just wasted all the work that Action Lab did. So we'll let you go watch it, and we'll find out what the deal is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Putting a drone in a box truck.
Down in the show notes. So.
Okay. All right. Next up.
Next up, we've got a Chinese rocket and a rocket failure filmed by drone.
I do like rocket failures. They're extremely energetic.
Yeah, if you scroll down to the second clip, that's the first clip, and then the second clip is the one we want.
The first clip is everything going fine? We don't want that.
No, the first clip is just part of it. It's not the whole thing. The second one is the whole thing. You might as well get the whole thing.
Okay. Oh, God. Sorry about the audio. All right. That looks like an FPV drone flipping around, following the rocket up. That's really badass, actually. Is this real life? Oh, the rocket's landing. I see. It's not accelerating. So they got this FPV drone. Do a Matty flip! Do a fucking Matty flip! No Matty flip. I really wanted the Matty flip. Matty flip a rocket. Sorry about that, guys. Just got excited. I really thought I was about to see a FPV drone Matty flip a rocket. This pilot's all right. Whoever this pilot is, thumbs up to you, dude. Despite the fact that you didn't Matty flip the drone. Probably would have burned the drone up. This is all going really well. Oh, no, it was going so well. Why don't fade out. That's the part I want to see the most. Why would you fade out? Is there more? No. What? No, I want to see it blow up. It already crashed. Why wouldn't you let me see it? That's really cool. Good flying. Yeah. What about this one? It's the same
That's just
video.
The end. Yeah.
Do I get to see the whole explosion? Probably
nope.
not.
That's why
looks like
the
motor cut out too soon and just dropped it. Boom! If you're going to show that part, why not show the whole rest of it? All right. Well, pretty cool.
Yeah.
And, we always love stories that put a positive spin on drones. And one of the best ways to put a positive spin on drones is to use them in search and rescue operations. Today, we don't have a dog that got rescued. We have a human. And some would say that's even better. But I'm not so sure.
Yeah, well, it is a human child, so they haven't had a chance to sin enough for us to hate them as a normal person, right? So this is the same as a pet or better, right?
Whose life is more valuable? A dog, a cute puppy dog, an innocent cute puppy dog, or a child, a human child? Let's face it, some human children are real dicks. But they don't deserve to die in the wilderness of exposure. They should be rescued, and that's why this is such a positive story.
Yeah.
I don't know what my problem is. I missed you, Blunty. I missed the news. What do we got here?
Yeah, so basically, kind of what we already said. There was a 10-year-old girl. She was lost. They could not figure out where she was. She had been gone for a day-long search, and they were using thermal imaging drones, but they finally found her sleeping in the forest with the thermal drone, and were able to find her on camera and rescue her.
She just looks like she's taking a nap.
I think she probably didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
She's been lost all day.
She's from Louisiana. I mean, like... You know, Louisiana girl just is like, hey, I'm going in the woods. I'll be back. You know, she's probably just hanging out with some freaking gators, right? She's taking a nap. A drone flies overhead. She's like, buzz off. Oh, you rescued me. I was going to come home anyway. See, look at those eyes. Look at that face. She's not worried. She was fine. I think she was fine.
I think the family that lost their child for a day would not agree, but that's fair.
Kids have way more capable than people give them credit for.
All right. Well, anyway.
Oh, yeah. No. Now that little girl could get lost in the woods and be in danger. You know, just goes to show. But she grew so much in the day in the woods. She got character.
All right.
Did you miss me? She did one thing smart, though. She was 300 yards from where a trail camera recorded her. If you're ever lost in the woods, you stop and you take a nap. And you wait to be rescued. Don't walk around. You just make it worse.
That is not official advice.
Isn't that the advice?
I don't think so.
If people are searching for you, you should not move around. You should stay in one place, because usually when people try to move towards safety, they just will walk in circles and make the situation worse. No,
I mean, I'm not saying walk all day long, but try to go to somewhere that looks like people have been, or that is visibly accessible from the sky, or you know what I mean.
I see your point. Maybe, but then stop. Right? Yeah. There's a story, sure. I forget the story. A dude got lost while he was hiking and basically died of exposure in the woods. And it turned out he was 100 feet from the trail and just didn't know it. And he's wandering around, and the whole time brutal.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's it.
That's it. You guys, a little bit of a short news. We did our early one because you've got a hard out, but that's okay. We'll be back next week for the Q&As. If you don't know, we're back to the Q&As. We're doing those on Sundays and Mondays. Sundays for the Europeans and Mondays for the U.S. people, but it doesn't matter. You can show up both days if you like. And then Tuesday we'll be back for the news at our normal time. To see you and to give you the news. Yeah. If you guys have news you want to submit, email news@fpvknowitall.com with any news stories you think we need to be covering. Feels like a slow news week in a lot of ways. Feels like a slow news month. Well, yeah, we kind of just did a little bit of a summary, sort of a catch-up, and we'll be back to the main news. Hopefully we'll have some big stories for the next week. Okay. Probably not, but maybe. Maybe DJI will fix the bug. Who knows? Oh, now that we're back, they'll be like, oh, we can't let Bardwell and Blunty down. People were saying, Bardwell, why don't you make a video about this to pressure DJI more? And I'm like, you think DJI gives a shit? YouTuber made a video saying we were nasty. But sure, DJI, fix it! Fix that bug! Oh, rebel! Oh, I'm so angry. There you go. Job done. See you next week, guys.